I was living in Alabama when my first record came out. Well, the reason you've never heard about it is because its debut coincided with the dawn of the disco era. Yeah, I'm a singer-songwriter. Yeah, needless to say, it was a total flop. The reviews were lovely, but they basically told me, hey, too bad you didn't put this out 10 years ago. I was like, great. Shortly thereafter, I lost my record deal, got dropped from my publisher, and found out I was pregnant. All of that in the same week. I was like, great. I tried this whole singer-songwriter dream. The world did not want me. Moving on. Next. The number 7 is said to be one of the strongest symbols of renewal and happiness, while the color blue is said to symbolize depth and stability beyond sorrow. In her true story, Beth Nielsen Chapman is forced to navigate her way through a dead chapter in her life, with nothing but her music to guide her. But it teaches her that being okay, despite everything, is still possible. 7 Shades of Blue by Beth Nielsen Chapman. I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. And I kept writing songs, but mostly just for fun. Late at night, after the baby was long asleep, my husband would pour a little Grand Marnier and ask me for whatever I was working on. And there was this one song that was kind of from my life, but then it wasn't, because there were a few lines that were very mysterious and very sad. I mean, there's this one line, and it goes, "In the hollow of your shoulder, there's a tide pool of my tears." Sad, but I play him this song one evening, and at the end of it, he's got this look on his face like, wow, and I'm like, okay, good, you know, he's liking this one, and he goes, no, yeah, you don't understand. This is your defining moment as a singer-songwriter. Oh, and by Friday, I have to send this in to these 3 people in Nashville, Tennessee, or he's gonna start smoking again. So I had no choice. But within 6 months, we were moving with my very little boy to Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, every dream of mine was coming true. This has been my dream since I was a little girl. And the whole time we were moving, he was pestering me relentlessly about finishing that song for him. Excuse me, Willie Nelson and Lori Morgan just hit #1 with songs I wrote for them. I was getting ready to go on tour. I would wake up every morning, and I couldn't believe any of this was happening for me. I mean, the phone was always ringing off the hook. 6 p.m. I'll be there. And right in the middle of all that, hey. My husband was diagnosed with a rare form of lymphoma. The doctor said we had about 6 weeks left. For hours, we just laid there, taking turns holding each other and crying. And then I got a call and I realized that less than an hour from then, I was supposed to be performing at a black tie event for the Warner Brothers. And to make matters just even better, I was supposed to be performing a song I had written for my husband called All I Have. So I told him, obviously we can't go to this. I mean, I'm a mess, you're a mess, I just can't call and cancel. And he goes, no. The only reason we'd call and cancel now is for some reason, like, oh, my husband is dying of cancer. And I'm not ready to tell the world that yet. Let's step into a world where for just a few more hours, I'm not dying. So I went. And it was a wonderful evening. I mean, I sang pretty well, but the whole time he was just beaming up at me. And he looked so healthy. And it just kind of hits you all at once, like this can't really be what we're going through. And the next morning we were reading an article about somebody who was at that event and died in a car crash. And he turns to me and he says, if we're doing this, then we are doing this right. I am going to fight to live. And that is exactly what he did, because instead of 6 weeks, we had 18 months together. All the best, but all the worst. And you get to a point where you start to have those conversations. And I remember Ernest asked me to take his ashes out to the Gulf of Mexico where we had our honeymoon. So when I step out to any body of water on earth, I'll be able to feel him there with me. And then he asked me if I ever finished writing that song for him. Excuse me, my husband is dying, but yeah, let me go write a song for you. So I stormed out of that room. He's crying down the hallway. Consider it my dying wish. So I was like, I will show that guy. And I stormed back into that room and sang him the end of my song. And the final line at the time was, I'll be happy ever after, and the world will get along. And he says he can't promise that. But he'll be okay. He'll be okay forever after, so how about that? And in the year following Ernest's death, I have been more of the frozen widow than the grieving widow. I mean, I have a son. I have a son who is very much grieving. It wasn't until I got into the studio with Rodney Crowell and we're going through the songs and I get to that song. By then it had a name, 7 Shades of Blue, and I get to that line. In the hollow of your shoulder, there's a tide pool of my tears. I wrote those lines 2 years ago. A year before he was actually diagnosed, and on the day he was diagnosed, I actually lived through those lines. Who does that? Who writes for themselves ahead of time? But I kept singing, and that's the song you can hear on the album today. You can hear it in my voice, the sound of someone who has been through hell and back and can still say, I'll be okay. Forever after. and the world will get along.